we can start the meeting. I will call the meeting to order. And I guess we can move right to agenda additions. Mr. Nyberg?
Mr. Chair, if I could, I'd like the indulgence of the board just to have a small in-camera session before we start. And if I could move it up to
after ones arising from the minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, in camera.
And then I would move it with that additions if anybody doesn't have any.
Okay, anything further to add? Nothing from administration. Okay, Mr. Nyberg's motion reads to approve the agenda with the in-camera addition. All those in favor? Carol?
I'm in favor.
Okay, thank you. I think before we start, we might as well just go around and do our introductions. For those watching by Zoom, and we'll start to my far left with Mr. Gender.
Ernie Gender, board member. Nixon, board member.
Russ Duhlberg, I'm vice chair of MPC today. Our chair is unable to attend. Sheree Neitz, though, is our chair. She's attending via Zoom.
James Nyberg, board member.
Rich Fitzgerald, GIS coordinator and development officer. Andrew Rishik, director of municipal services. Larry Clark, board member.
Jacinta Donovan, Director of Planning Services.
Rick Green, director of operations.
Okay, thank you. We'll move into minute approval from the May 26th meeting. Mr. Nixon has moved the minutes be approved as presented. All those in favor? Sheree? Carried. Business arising from the minutes. I guess we will now go into in-camera session. Mr. Marshall, Mr. Nyberg, who would you like to stay for this in-camera session?
Actually, if we could,
and I apologize, but if all except Andrew could step out for a second.
I'm assuming. And we're going to move to 5.1, the Development Officers Report on page 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the list is there if there's any questions on our activities during the past month. And we've had some very long site inspection lists that we've had multiple sites. It's kind of a little bit of a backlog that we had, but again, this week we also had 14 sites that we visited. So just it's been fairly busy and just moving. We're actually at 50 permits more than what we were at this time last year. So we're at 80, and at this time last year we were at 29. And for subdivisions, we were catching up. We were lagging behind, but we're now at 11 applications, the same as last year at this time. Well, actually, no, we have 2 more, so we're at 13. And so we're just slightly ahead in the subdivisions. If there's any questions on their report that's with the package?
Were there any questions for the report? Not, could I ask for a mover? Mr. Clark, all in favor? Carried. Moving into the development permit applications today, are there any on the line that we should move forward in the agenda?
Do you have any number on the line? A couple are only identified by phone numbers, so I don't know if,
I guess we don't.
just to pull this out. But I do have, for sure I can see 6.4 is there. 6.8 is there. And 6.7, and you said 7.2 is one of those? Okay, 7.2. Do you recognize the other phone numbers over there? We've got a separate one already for that one. So we'll start with those ones for now, and maybe
Some of them,
right after we can try and flip through, or we can address that caller individually and see
okay.
what item they're interested in.
Okay, so as courtesy to our callers on Zoom, we will start with 6.4, the Hooper application on page 35. And who's going to take that one? Rich will take that?
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
the applicant is proposing to renew their development permit for 2 RV units as dwelling units and add a third RV as a dwelling unit as well. The applicant has an existing development permit that is due to expire this year for the 2 RVs, 2008 Fleetwood and a 2015 Forest River. The applicant is proposing to also add a third RV to the site, a 2002 Tahoe, for a family member to use. The third recreational vehicle is older than 15 years. Pursuant to section 75.4 of the land use bylaw, photos of the recreational unit are attached. A letter from the applicant explaining the situation has been attached to this file as well. During a site inspection performed on June 8th, it was noted the 3 RVs are hidden from sight by the vegetation on the lot, and that the lot seems to be more than large enough to house the 3 units and meet the required setbacks.
So, in this area of the county, the land use bylaw allows that many units?
No.
It does not.
It does not. Okay. So, Mr. Nyberg?
Scroll through, Mr. Chair, through to administration. This isn't even a variance, this is a complete contradiction to our land use bylaw, correct? If a neighbor
Was
was,
decide to bring in a grievance against this, it would basically, it would be a hands down, slam dunk, no, correct?
Yes, unfortunately, yes, it is the 2 per lot in the subdivision. They can go through the temporary permit application that we have available for 21 days, but for permanent use is limited to 2. It just, Yeah, this lot is larger than most other lots that have recreational vehicles, but it doesn't, it's not based on the size of the lot, it's based on the, any lot, right, regardless of the size.
And this is in what subdivision?
Buffalo Lake Meadows.
Buffalo Lake Meadows, sorry, yeah, there I see it now. Mr. Nixon, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, and I guess this would be to administration does, now the temporary permit, that would have to be taken off for a week every 21 days or 5 days or something like that, would it?
Yes.
So at this point, this meeting can approve the renewal of 2, but it probably can't approve an addition of a 3rd. Is that following the rules correctly?
It's
In your discretion.
Discretion.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I'd almost venture to guess that it's not in our discretion. I would call to Andrew on this one a little bit because of the simple fact is, we can bend the rules and we can do variances, but I don't think we can vote. And I feel for these people, I really do. I know the situation and I understand it, but this one's a tough one for me, but I don't think you can, by the MGA, vote directly against a rule. I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay, makes sense. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, are 2 permitted uses and a temporary use allowed
Yes, for 21 days, they
for
would.
21 days? Well, I'm going to make that motion, Mr. Chairman, that we permit the use of the 2 and the temporary permit for 21 days, and the people can work around that as they see fit.
Okay, I have that motion forward. All right. Does the applicant have any comments they wish to bring forward to the board?
Good afternoon. Yes, thank you. I appreciate you taking this into consideration. I was just kind of hoping for a special dispensation just for this summer. My mom is end stage congestive heart failure. I'm just trying to keep her out of the city of Edmonton to keep her safe. My home in Edmonton, I have 2 grown daughters that live there that are both in healthcare and come home from their shifts and I just wanted to keep my mom safe. So I wanted to live out here this summer with her. The special dispensation was really only for this summer. She's end stage. I would love to request longer, but I really don't think that's going to happen. I will have a problem removing the lot from the trailer the trailer from the lot every 21 days. I'd have to find someone to do that for me and find somewhere to stick that trailer 4 or 5 days before I get it back on this lot. So that's all I was hoping for, just a special dispensation for this summer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other further comments, Mr. Clark?
Just the comment is it is licensed for 2 trailers. Would one of the other trailers be able to be moved easier, or this one looks like it's pulled into the tree, so.
Yeah, those 2 other trailers have been there for 5 years already. So yeah, they're pretty enclosed in. It would be even more difficult to move the other trailers. They've kind of had little decks built around them. This one here that we have for my mom, we built some, handicap stairs to go up it. Yeah.
Any other comments?
Sorry, just if I could get a clarification. Go ahead.
Is this Cherie?
Yes,
Okay, Cherie, go ahead.
yeah, I was basically gonna ask kind of the same question as Larry did, because if she could count this trailer as her second one, would that be easier if nobody else is coming into one of the other ones. And then it would be easier for her mother to gain access to the one that has the wheelchair accessible.
Well, the other trailer belongs to my daughter and her family, and it is, yeah, we've had it kind of stuck deep in the bush there. It would not be easy to pull that out for the 5 days. There's just kind of a little there's a temporary deck built around it, so that would have to be dismantled to pull my daughter's trailer out.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, any further discussion?
And just clarification on the motion. So what you're saying, and I don't think we have to make a motion that you would have the 21 days because you could do that anyways, right?
Process through plan.
Yeah, it would just be processed through planning. Is there any other, there's no way that we can do a permit for a longer period of time to, my only, I mean, if you do one and it's that Pandora's box, if we do this, it opens up a lot of, and I just won't vote against the MGA, I just can't. That's not something we can do and properly get away with. Your motion is, we can vote in favor of that, but that doesn't solve her problem, is what I'm saying.
We've done as much as we can do with it at that point, I think.
Yeah.
And still work within our bylaws and rules, so.
So your motion would be basically to approve the renewal for the two. Because then they can come in and do their own.
Do they need a renewal for the two?
We can issue it at staff level. It's discretionary use, so it would go to adjacent landowners with a 21-day appeal period. And that's, we already have that discretion to issue RV permits. But being that this was a request for the third unit,
Third one.
we brought it forward for consideration.
Do we?
Les,
Oh, go ahead.
Sheree, go ahead.
just a question for Wayne. Could we make it a 60-day? Just for this one?
Mr. Chairman, I was just trying to keep it within our own set of rules and standards and bylaws, so that's why I made the motion. Yeah,
Hard to fit this one in to anything that we have for existing rules.
and I was doing it as much for somebody else that might want to do the same thing as I was for this, just so it's something that you need an extra permit for sure, wherever you did it.
I mean, your motion, and the 21 day is redundant, and so
It is.
and so is the two.
It is because they're already approved, so have permits, so.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't have a problem with that to move forward. This is one of the tough ones that you try to do the right thing for it, and we only work on complaint basis anyways.
Yes, and it appears that RV has been there for some time, as you can tell from the photo. And we haven't had any complaints, but that's again discretion if we enforce upon complaints accepted.
We haven't got a complaint on this property.
Not quite secluded.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is that we go ahead with Wayne's motion and
Leave it up to the discretion of them.
leave it up to the discretion of enforcement to see how they enforce on it. So. Or not. As if that's losing her mind. I know.
You got a comment?
Well, I'm Catherine, I heard that much.
And then the mic, so everybody can hear you chewing me.
Yeah.
Pop that. You know, just there to.
You hear me now? Yeah. Sorry, board member Nyberg. That's not fair as we work, administration works on the instructions and direction we get from council and MPC. Why don't you, my suggestion would be to the end of the year, give a compassion severance and let the ladies spend the summer with the family. We are getting no complaints. And I probably, for that reason, probably people know what's going on. So if we do get complaints, we'll act on them.
Yeah, it's probably the community or the neighboring community probably understands the situation and have pretty much understand the compassion that's necessary.
Doesn't the CEO have that power to do?
So does that,
Mr. Nixon, do you want to make a motion? Or?
Ernie has his hand up first.
I'm just wondering if we not, like, due to the circumstances of the situation, for compassion.
And which board member cares to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. That we allow the third trailer to be on site. Actually, I'll tell you what, I will make the motion that we instruct administration to give a special permit with a tag on it. So my concern is if it's got a tag and it's got a spot, then there's no issue going forward with enforcement later on down the road. If it had a tag, if you made an application that was a special tag that was a permitted tag for what's their tags cost for a 21-day period?
$0 this year.
Okay, so for $0, they get them for this year, till May of, or June of 2022. Am I right?
Well, she said just the summer, right?
Okay, till the end of the year. She applies for a permit through the tag system, which is a zero cost, and it is extended till the end of December on special circumstances. Does that sound right to everybody?
So if I can, Mr. Chairman, I would eliminate the portion about the tag system because that's meant for a temporary RV and it wouldn't be a discretionary use that has a right of appeal. This is a variance that's should have a right of appeal. So just we'll log it in the tag system so that there's no enforcement confusion.
That's what I'm worried about.
We're doing with all the development permits that are greater than the 21 days as well. So the other two RVs that they're already permitted under, that planning and development can do, those will show up in that system.
Good.
Well,
I just for administration's
Problem that somebody doesn't go in there and say.
just want to be clear for the motion. So, because it does have a right of appeal and that's where the risk is, right? If a neighboring landowner came in and appealed, they may have a strong case against it, but if there's no one who cares, then things don't.
I'm good with that. So Marlene, you know what we're motion states?
Just one thing before we vote on the motion. I was wondering if you should include the word compassion in it
Yes.
rather than special.
Okay, for compassionate
Reasons.
compassionate
So
reasons.
that specifies it a little more clearly. Mr. Gender?
Do we have two motions on the floor?
No. He rescinded.
Wayne rescinded it.
Oh, Wayne rescinded his,
Or withdrew it.
withdrew?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Motion for compassionate reasons,
We will allow third trailer on this property for the duration of the year 2021. Does that work for you, Andrew?
and then to be logged in the.
Yeah, that part will be handled administratively. All trailers will be.
okay. Any further comments or discussion? All those in favor of the motion?
I'm in favor.
Okay, that motion is carried. Well,
Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very.
We'll We'll now move to 6.7, development permit 21077, page 80. And which one of our administration people will be doing this one? Jacinta, okay.
The applicant is requesting an extension of temporary development permit, DP 14056, issued August 2014 for an ancillary building, a CCAN of 8 feet by 40 feet on Lot 3, Block 1, Plan 0521511 within the Buffalo Lake Meadows subdivision. The development permit was issued for a 5-year period. The placement of a CCAN in a multi-lot subdivision is a discretionary use and therefore requires approval from the Municipal Planning Commission. The location of the CCAN is at the rear of the lot in a treed area which provides screening from public view. And the applicant has submitted a photo which is attached to the report.
Two holiday trailers on
And the applicant has advised that the boiler trailer will be removed. And we have issued a permit for the 5 years. It's right, it's a temporary permit as well.
Okay, that's, the term is 5 years.
Yes, for the RV. But this is for the CCAN.
Oh, the CCAN. And what is that term?
it.
As a temporary permit, you can put the date. There isn't a time limit. The last time it was for 5 years.
Oh, I see, we can determine the time limit, this motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll give you a motion that we extend this for 5 years. We have never had any complaints that way.
Okay. Any discussion on this motion? Mr. Clark.
If anybody was to complain, would that the 5-year permit just sit as is, or would they have the opportunity to now? We've talked CCANs and other subdivisions at the lake and have said where do we go with this issue? So I just want to make sure that it isn't bothering neighbors. And
Haven't any complaints to date.
And we could put a lesser period of time on Mr. Clark. I have no problem. I just threw out the number because typically what would happen is within that 5-year period, if you got complaints or there's been issues, when it comes to renewal time, at that point, they would say, no, it's time to move it on. But there's been nothing with this one that I know of.
Have any yet?
It does seem pretty secluded. So everyone good with the term? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor of extending the permit? 5 years, so.
I'm in,
Sheree, so,
in favor.
okay, thank you. That's carried unanimously. Now we're going to move to 6.8, development permit 21080 for Burn, and it is on page 84 of the agenda package.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the applicant is proposing to install a 2005 recreational vehicle and construct a 168 square foot ancillary building in the front yard of Lot 90, Block 2, Plan 05222242, within the Buffalo Sands subdivision. Section 43.12 of the county's land use bylaw stipulates an ancillary building shall not be placed in the front yard of a parcel within a multi-lot subdivision. Section 23.5 of the bylaw provides the Municipal Planning Commission with the discretion to allow a variance to locate the ancillary building in the front yard. The applicant is requesting a 68% variance from 25 feet to 8 feet to the minimum front yard setback in order to alleviate the removal of trees from his property. Section 23.5 of the land use bylaw stipulates the Municipal Planning Commission may allow a variance of 25% of the stated standard, from 25 feet or 7.62 meters to 18.75 feet or 5.71 meters. So there is a photo showing the location of the ancillary building attached. And the applicant has joined us via Zoom.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Nyberg.
What's the green box that I'm seeing there?
So,
Electrical, yeah, electrical.
Electrical or telephone?
All right.
is there any stipulation of the setback from that power box? I'm just wondering if we should have one of our stipulations in this, that the condition is that they get approval from ATCO, that I would think it's ATCO, is it not?
Typically, the requirement would, for constructing, would be just to stay off of the utility right of way or easement that might be registered on land, and that typically the electric companies will, or telephone companies, whichever utility operator is running, will have an easement that covers their working surface as well.
So that's what I'm wondering. It looks like it's awfully close. And this is my thought, if they had to get a backhoe or something in there to a retarded hole, are we impeding them with this particular building? I mean, I'm just trying to be overly cautious maybe with this, but I'm just wondering, they get a little owly when you do stuff like that. It wouldn't hurt to have part of one of the conditions that we check with ATCO to make sure that they're far enough away from that.
Mr. Clark?
Which box you talking, James? The green one to the right or the gray
The
box?
green one to the right, I think the other one is a personal power box.
I think it is, so that would indicate to you the power runs to that point and then would take off from there, I think.
And then, but there's another one, and I'm thinking it's right back behind the other one that's a short pole there, so.
Because that would be their property if it was a second box with the meters.
Right,
It's on,
but it looks like it's
right on the back, like that green box and that gray box looks like they're parallel, right?
To me, it looks like the one's back further, but
I'm just,
yeah.
I mean, it would be a good cautionary to check with that to make sure that they're not impeding.
So the ancillary building that they're getting a permit for, is that the structure that's partly started?
The building had that, when the building's less than 192 square feet, they do not require a permit. But we were at the lake and noticed that this was under construction in the front yard, which is a discretionary use.
Right.
Did you guys see the note that came up? It said that the green box is over 15 feet away.
Yes, we want
Oh,
to
there we go. We have,
ask these questions of the applicant. They are.
okay, does the applicant wish to speak to this? Mr. Byrne?
Yes, hi.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, I ended up starting the build on this project. I did read the rules wrong. I thought it was 25 feet from the front, and then Jacinta did let me know that it was anything in front of the trailer. I have a unique property where it is fully treed. I do have a large hill in the middle of the property where we had to drop the trailer down onto. So I lose about 80 feet in the front of my property. We had a unique opportunity with this one to put the shed where we wanted to put the shed because there was a natural area to be able to put that. And you can see in that picture where it is covered with full trees. So that's why I'm asking for the variance to go further than it's gone before. So we can alleviate taking down any trees in behind that, as well as keeping as many trees as we possibly can for.
Okay, and do you anticipate any earth moving close to the power poles?
The structure is completely movable. So it is built on skids.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
you
So
don't
if
have
there is
to
ever any problem,
There's nothing to worry about then.
And,
So Les, I can make that motion to approve it.
okay, Shereen Yates has made the motion to approve this variance.
I think we're going back to what happened in your previous discussion. There is the standard is 25% that you can approve. So if it would go to an appeal, there would be.
Could be appealed.
But this shed is actually movable, isn't it? It's on skids.
Yeah, it's on skids. If that's.
That should be. And the lake land use is somewhat unique because most of the garages and ancillary buildings are in the front because you can't put them at the back because you can't drive your car in from the lake side. So it's quite
Don't
unique.
look at changing that policy. So.
And that was going to be a comment too, if that area could have a different land use bylaw. or policy. But anyway, we do have a motion on the floor.
Can I just ask a question? If it's on skids, why is it being brought to us? Because typically.
In the front yard,
Yeah, but you can put it on skids in front of the front yard anyways without a permit, right?
and not even a tarp shed is allowed in the front yard.
Even if it's on
Any
skids.
type of ancillary building.
The foundation doesn't make it. Just like an RV is movable, it still requires appropriate funding.
So this is a permanent, what do you call it?
Structure.
Permit. It's not a temporary use permit. Like the
No,
trailer.
no one would be living in this. It's basically to store tools to be able to build a future cabin at the bottom.
Yeah, Mr. Brin, just from our standpoint, I'm asking administration that this is a permanent, permit. Your trailer is not, it goes on a regular basis, but, yeah.
It would be unless it's appealed.
Yeah.
Don't you have to have an ancillary building like a RV or a cabin before you can have,
And there is an RV already
It's
on.
permanent property, right?
they're kind of linked
Yeah.
together, whether they're on skids or not.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll call the question to Mrs. Neetz's motion. All those in favor?
In favor?
So that was carried unanimously.
Did we find out who the other two people were?
But we know one for sure, so we'll move on to the 7.2.
7.2, we also have a Zoom caller online for a subdivision permits, 2021-06 for Thompson, page 96 of the package.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is proposing to consolidate a 16.98 acre parcel with the remainder of the border section. The northwest of 6, 4119 west of the 4th, then subdivide one 14 acre parcel. The newly created parcel will incorporate the homestead and the existing outbuildings and is shaped and sized in such a way as to meet the required setbacks for the location of the open discharge septic system, and is the reason it exceeds the preferred parcel size of 10 acres.
Move that forward, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Nixon has moved it forward. Any discussion on this motion? If there's no discussion, I will.
I've got a question. Does the rural, does that, anything over the 10 acres, does this affect this with the rural development fund?
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be paid.
Yeah, the 4 acres would be subject.
Okay.
The applicant is aware of that. Okay,
You want to speak to that?
great. Did you have anything to add, Mr. Thompson? Mrs. Thompson?
Just ask them to unmute and they're on.
Okay, if you care to unmute,
It's *6 to unmute yourself on phone.
That might be Meston's.
Oh, okay, maybe we don't have this one on then. We'll, sorry, go ahead.
okay, I guess if the Thompsons aren't online, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Sheree?
In favor?
Okay, so that was carried again unanimously.
If I can ask clarification to the caller at 0041, which agenda item are you looking to speak to?
I'm on the 10-acre parcel for Meston.
Okay, well, if we could move to 7.3 then.
Okay, we'll do that one next then. 7.2, subdivision file 2021-07 for Meston. It is on page 102 of the agenda package.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is proposing to create a boundary adjustment for Lot 1, Block 1, Plan 1224323 by subdividing approximately 10 acres from the remainder of the southwest of 213719 west of the 4th. The consolidated parcel will provide the applicant needed space for the horses that they are currently renting from the landowner of the southwest of 213719 west of the 4th. So to explain what he's trying to do, he's not creating a new parcel. He's just adding the land to his existing acreage. He's been renting that land for some time from the owner of the remainder of the quarter section. Normally, this addition would be subject to the Rural Development Fund of the $1,000 per acre. But he would like to speak to MPC to that. Just to give you a background as to what he's looking to do with the land, he's not looking to add any other structures. It's more or less a riding arena for his horses, I understand, but I'll let him speak to you on that.
Okay, sure. If you care to speak to our MPC board at this time, you're free to do so.
Thank you very much. All I was just wanting to do is add another 10 acres of grass to my, like, the 10 acre parcel I already have. The landowner just said, if you want to buy it, go ahead. We kind of talked about the boundary and stuff, and all I'm going to do is fence it, put a gate on it, and let him seed it to grass. It's not like I'm going to subdivide it and build a house and sell it. Once I got that 10 acres, I'm going to keep it for myself forever. And yeah, I just was hoping there was a way around getting around the $10,000 adder for that 10 acres.
Okay, thank you for your input. Is there any discussion? We haven't got a motion yet, though. But any questions? Mr. Gender?
When was the first subdivision taken out?
Would have been in 2012, I believe, by the looks of the plan number.
Would have there been any contribution on that one?
No, that would have been too early, I think.
It also would have just been 10 acres.
So it would have been just 10.
Yeah. The MDP and the fee bylaw do specify that a boundary adjustment, the increased acreage is subject to the Rural Development Fund. So it would be a waiver if council considered, or MPC considered granting that.
It's really not changing the use. If it's used for horse pasture now and continues to be.
Something to be aware of for councils, or for MPC's sake. There is no forever. Unless there's some sort of extra instrument registered against the title, which would be getting into a fairly messy situation. Then once it's a 20 acre parcel, it's a 20 acre parcel. It can be developed in accordance with the land use bylaw as a 20 acre parcel.
And they can split it into 3 different.
That would at least come back before council.
Right.
And
But
so
they have no chance to take the rural development fund at that point in time if they decided to put houses on it. And I get what Mr. Meston is saying, forever, but unfortunately, as humans, we don't last forever, but counties do. Well, most of them do, I guess. There are a few that we've noticed that have went by the wayside. Unfortunately, I'm not in favor of that, of waiving that particular fee. As much as it is the usage, I get it, I understand it. But this is our way of discouraging people of turning this into, he could sell it to somebody and they take the horses off there and turn it into something else, right?
Mr. Gender, you have a comment or question?
If I read this correctly, it's if in future, someone could subdivide out, say, a small acreage and then come back and then add on to it again, and there'd be no cost to it. I find that it's countering what we have really put into it for the bylaws.
You're right, Ernie. They could come back and make application to like split it in two, and that second acreage, they could come and ask for 2 10 acre parcels put on it. You would have 4 10 acre, it's hard for me to believe, but I do understand what you're talking about right now.
This is precedent setting for future.
Any further comments? Someone care to make a motion so we can vote?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman, with, but allowing no exemption. Just saying that
Approve the boundary adjustment.
approve the boundary adjustment, but that the contribution to the Rural Development Fund has to be paid.
Would stay in place. Okay,
sort of out of our control.
yeah, because that's the only way we can make it following rules.
So if I have this correct, and I think I do. So in this case, there's 20 acres and somebody comes in and they got 20 acres and this goes through. If there was no rural development fund, they could come back a month later, basically, after it's all been surveyed and put in place, and split this into 2 acres and not pay a rural development fund, basically.
Well, can I, do you want to speak to it? Sure.
I'll let you have a little more experience on this.
So one of the parcels would be vacant, right? There would be no homes dwelt on it. Well, maybe it could be, but then 2 dwellings on a 20-acre parcel is discretionary. So something to consider when you are approving the second dwelling. But the 5 acres would be vacant, so the balance, if you're to bring it to the 10 acres, would be subject to 1,000 per acre.
Oh, that's what I mean. You would be able to take a 5-acre parcel off and not have to pay the rural development.
So the balance of it would still be 15 acres and you take off 5, yes.
So, yeah, just what Ernie was saying, then that's what you could do. And this is going to be consolidated, right, into a 20-acre parcel, right?
I thought you meant to split it again into 2.
No, that's what she's, yeah,
That's what I was saying, but I was using 10 acres versus.
I see.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor to approve the expansion of the acreage, but not waive the rural development fee. All those in favor?
In favor?
Sheree? Okay, that was carried unanimously.
I didn't know what Larry was doing there.
Oh, let's look right up.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Okay, so I
was looking at meeting.
that should be all the people that are called in today.
I have one more person on the line that I need to clarify what item.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm going to ask to unmute, and the phone should prompt you to press *6.
We have a caller on the line. If you could identify yourself, please.
They haven't unmuted yet. So if you press *6, it should give you the option to unmute if you wanted to indicate what item you were looking to speak to. Go ahead.
Hello,
There we go.
Yes.
are you looking for me?
Yes, please. Yeah, just wondering which item, so that we can make the best use of your time, you wanted council to address next.
Oh,
Tracy, you.
excuse me, I just wanted to discuss that 3-parcel subdivision on 601.
Okay, so 7.1, perfect.
Okay.
We would move to 7.1.
Next, we'll move to 7.1, so that for the Peters subdivision 202105 on page 90.
Mr. Gender, I think, has something.
Okay, Mr. Gender. Mr. Gender has excused himself from the meeting. Okay, so then if administration could line this one for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is proposing to subdivide 3 parcels from the quarter section, 1 5-acre parcel, 1 6-acre parcel, and 1 3-acre parcel. Water to be provided on the 6-acre parcel via an existing water well, and the other 2 parcels will be determined by the purchaser of the lots at the time. There are dwellings on the 6-acre parcel and the 3-acre parcel, and the applicant is yet to decide if they will remain or be demolished and removed. An application has been submitted to Alberta Transportation for one approach to be removed, and I just got word today that that has been approved. And a new joint approach to be constructed for the 6-acre parcel and the 3-acre parcel. Access to the 5-acre parcel is via an existing approach off of Highway 601.
I'll move that forward, Mr. Chairman. Open it for discussion.
Okay. Mr. Nixon has brought it forward to the meeting for discussion. Mr. Nyberg?
So just, by the way, thank you, Tracy, for helping to alleviate some of the problem the neighbors had out there. I appreciate that. Trust me.
Welcome.
How is the 3-acre parcel going to be? Are you going to get a caveat? I'm a little confused at how the entrance to that other parcel is going to work.
I believe that Jacinta and I, we'd agreed that it would make sense to have, I think it's called a dog leg, is that correct, Jacinta?
I think your dad had preferred to have a joint approach, so that is what we've requested.
Okay, so a joint approach. So we were going to move the one that is, because there's actually 3 access on there already. So the first one the furthest west one, we were not looking to change. And the furthest east one, we're not looking to change because that'll be our farming access into that quarter. And the existing one, that's where the original homestead is, that comes in there, we would like to move it further east on the highway just a little bit to accommodate, and then go, into a joint one, so to access the 6 and 3 acre parcel.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I'm not a big fan of the dog legs, but that makes sense to me. Now, is that part of our, through to administration, is that part of our, one of our conditions?
It will have, it will have to be, because that's how Alberta Transportation has approved the access.
Okay,
So
so do we need to officially put that as a condition, or do we have to just have the condition that it applies by Alberta Transportation?
It is already a condition that it's subject to, yeah. And the existing approach into the larger parcel will have to be removed, and that's what. Also, just to bring up to that, we have a condition that the properties be rezoned to country residence agricultural district, so that limits the amount of livestock on the property. And
Because right now it's all zoned agricultural, so even when a subdivision happens, the zoning stays with the newly created parcel from what it originally was. So to save a headache down the road with these smaller parcels, because with agricultural, we have no way to limit. If somebody wanted to start a hog farm on that 3 acre parcel, if it's zoned agricultural, we're very limited as to how to stop that. But with CRA, we have a lot more control over what can happen and what can't.
And Tracy, you understand
That and are okay with it?
Yes, understand that, and that's fine.
They can only have a few horses and a lot of sheep.
Pygmy goat.
Oh, no, goats are good. I jest, but okay, I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, what I was wondering though is they haven't determined those older structures on there yet. I mean, we all know that the past use of them, they were not in very good shape, and they were fairly hazardous. I would like to see a condition that the old structures be removed.
Well, I would suggest that you come and have a look before you make that decision if you've never wandered through them. The furthest structure that's on, I would say, is the third on the 3 acre. It was renovated while those people were in there, and so it has a brand new basement. It has all new drywall, upstairs, downstairs, taped. We had several contractors out, and it's probably about a $50,000 fix to make it a good looking house, and that would be replacing the windows, the ones the police shot out, and putting new siding, roofing. It would make a very, dollar friendly but lovely, 1,000 square foot, or I can even 2,000 square foot, but 1,000 on maintenance and finished basement. And at this stage, there would be no reason to dismantle or wreck that house and take it down. On the middle parcel where all the activity was, the Quonset is in great shape. It's got a great concrete floor. You couldn't replace it for probably under $100,000. And the barn also is in very good shape. I had a roofer there yesterday. He suggested that we tin the roof. Other than that, the concrete's great. The walls are standing. It's a very usable thing. The house, in the middle is not. That's the only structure, that would need to be taken down.
Okay.
And if it was going to be sold as a hobby farm, could it be fixed up? Sure. It's not horrible. People lived in there. The Watson family up until 1999 before Larry got there. It was a lovely family home. So, could you fix it? Sure. Are we going to? Not likely. And we also are in the understanding that if the next house, it could not be in that same house or not in that same spot because it's too close to the road.
Okay,
so we're taking it down
we would move further north.
Okay, no, thank you for that clarification, Mr. Nyberg.
So, Mr. Chairman, what I would say is at the point of development permit would be the point, I think, that this board could make that determination right now. I don't know if it's within our purview to do it, but just that development permit time, yes, absolutely.
Okay, that sounds good. Mr. Clark?
Tracy, we're just looking at a camera picture from it or satellite picture right now. All the old vehicles and stuff, are they all cleaned up?
Absolutely.
Okay, this shows a pile of them on there still, so.
This imaging is from 2015.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to clarify that, because it looks like a place that I go around on the ring road kind of, so.
No, not a single vehicle on there. There is a antique pull-type hay rig for a horse wagon sitting in the yard still that I had a neighbor inquire about. He hasn't picked it up. And a few odds and ends. And that's why I know there's another flat trailer that it was too big to go into the steel guy's dumpster. But we made another sweep about 2-3 weeks ago. And now we're at the stage where we just need to have a final sweeping out, a little painting inside the Quonset, just some spraying. And we were there spraying all the weeds the other day and going back this weekend and recutting the grass.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion?
Cherie's got some questions.
Cherie,
I have a question.
go ahead.
When you're looking at the satellite picture and the line going down along the highway, I do believe, is that the barn, the structure there? Does that?
Quonset is the one that is sitting right close to the roadway. That's the barn is further north in that yard. Yeah, when you're looking at the thing.
Now, does the Quonset, does that have to be moved for our boundary line, or is that just, are those lines not drawn on there exactly to?
No.
I would assume they're not exactly because it's not going to be moved.
Yeah.
No. You couldn't move it, or not cost efficiently move it.
So the black line that follows along the south border of the property, that's an existing property line that's not being created for the subdivision. Now, give or take about 3 meters with the aerial photo and the cadastral layer, it could be out one way or the other about 3 feet, but it looks like that Quonset's probably sitting right on the property line.
Yeah.
So that could be an issue, is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, that Quonset may have been built there before the highway right-of-way was taken that wide.
It was.
Right.
Yeah, so chances are that could probably be grandfathered in because they would have taken a really wide right-of-way through there once the province took the highway and built it. So, at the time it was built, it probably met the required setbacks, but now because of the road widening, it doesn't, but.
The worst case scenario is that on trying to sell the property, it'll show up as a non-conforming structure on the RPR.
Right.
And unless it burns down to, 70% or greater, it needs to be rebuilt, then we don't care.
It's a non-issue.
Yeah, and there is a chance of error, on the aerial when you put the boundary lines over top an aerial like that. It can be out slightly, but it's just for reference. Any other discussion? We have a motion on the floor. I'll call the question. All those in favor?
I'm in favor.
And that was carried unanimously. Okay, was someone call Mr. Gender back in? Okay.
Thank you.
Tracy, is Tracy still on the line?
Yeah, I'm still here. Do you want me off now?
No. I was just going to ask if you wanted to stay on the line for your dad's telecommunication tower on your dad's land. Did you want to take part in that as well?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Not because I'm not enjoying your company, but I've got other people in my office and I'm waiting to do something else, so.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Just thought I'd ask before you.
Thank you, though,
No.
consideration. Okay.
Thank you.
Guys, bye.
Yeah, bye. Okay, so now we'll get back to the agenda order. 6.1, Development Permit 21057 for Weeb on page 18.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the applicant is proposing to install a 2020 manufactured home and construct a 3,024 square foot ancillary building or shop on Lot 1, Block 1, Plan 9925174. Contractor's business home base, Jericho Concrete, is proposed to occupy a portion of the shop for equipment storage and material related to the operation of the business. All activities related to the business operation is performed off-site. The business currently employs one non-resident employee. Contractor's business home base is listed as discretionary use in the agricultural district. Access to the subject properties from an existing approach off Highway 56. A second approach off Township Road 39-2 is located at the southeast corner of the property.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gender, I'll move this, please.
Okay. Mr. Gender has moved to approve as presented. Is there any discussion? Cherie, did you have any questions or comments?
No, I didn't.
Okay, if not, we'll ask the question. All those in favor?
I'm in favor.
Okay, that motion has been carried unanimously. Okay, we'll move to 6.2, development permit 21065 for Wheeland on page 25.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is proposing to construct an ancillary building with attached carport on Lot 5, Block 1, Plan 8222364 within the Scenic Sand subdivision. Section 43.12 of the county's land use bylaws stipulates an ancillary building shall not be placed in the front yard of a parcel of land within a multi-lot subdivision. Section 23.5 of the bylaw provides the Municipal Planning Commission with the discretion to allow a variance to locate an ancillary building in the front yard. Approximately 15 trees will need to be cleared from the site in order to construct the structure in the location identified on the site plan submitted with the application and shown on the attached aerial sketch. The applicant has, I sent the applicant a copy of the report, and he's noted that the storage shed will be located behind the carport and will have trees and bushes on both sides so that we'll have no open sight lines from the road or any of our neighbors' homes. As well, we are requesting that the trees be cleared for a site triangle of 60 meters on both sides of the approach and adequate turning room on site in order to alleviate backing of the vehicles onto the street. So that condition hasn't been added, but we're proposing to add it as a condition to this application.
Is the applicant aware of that condition?
I did send him the proposed addition to the conditions. I did not hear back from Jay before the meeting.
And the approach, is it pretty much like in the center of that lot coming in?
It is. We were at the site yesterday. I don't know, there seems to be less trees in the road allowance than what's showing on this aerial, but there was just a cluster of trees basically in the center of the lot in front of the home. So as Andrew mentioned earlier, these photos are from 2015. So I do have a photo. I added to the package.
Anybody care to make the motion? Mr. Jenner?
So there's going to be a 16-meter triangular from the approach going left and right.
16 meters.
Okay, Mr. Nixon has moved this forward. And is there any further with the addition of the conditions?
Just the question now, is there going to be like, they're not showing an actual roadway, so I'm guessing that you're going to come in and then you're going to go around in this picture on the top right-hand corner. There's no issue with getting a fire truck in there if that's... These treed areas kind of concern me a little bit because, I mean, that's a long ways to pack hose from the front of that lot to the back of that lot. through a bunch of trees. And to stage a fire truck is a little bit tough sometimes.
Just a question on that site inspection, like the roadway runs right past this? So it can be a carport, because it kind of looks, by this aerial, I know it's 2015, but it looks like it's just kind of plucked in the middle of the trees, and the odds of a car ever getting to it don't look very.
There were a lot more trees removed than since this aerial was taken. Rich was there yesterday as well. You could see the home from the road.
So the driveway runs right past this?
Yeah, so it looks like you're gonna come in the property and you can see in the center there is where the driveway is.
Yeah.
And then we'll come up to this building and then it turns around and falls into the house.
I did have a photo of it.
End of the year, or sorry, end of the summer, hopefully. But
Okay, that'll be good. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, and as outlined by staff, this aerial isn't current, so there are a lot of these trees have been removed already. So, all in favor?
Mr. Stillberg, I just have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Does the motion include the staff recommendations of the 16 feet clearance?
Of course.
Okay.
Yep, okay, I just didn't hear that. So I'm in favor.
Everybody else in favor? And that is carried, unanimous. So 6.3 is our next one. Development permit 21069 for Tremel Construction, page 30.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the applicant is proposing to install a recreational vehicle and construct a 720 square foot ancillary building on Lot 5 in Ocean Sands Heights subdivision. The attached site plan illustrates a future cabin is intended to be constructed at the rear of the property. The proposed location of the ancillary building is in the front yard of the parcel. Section 4312 of the county's land use bylaw stipulates an ancillary building shall not be placed in the front yard of a parcel within a multi-lot subdivision. Section 23.5 of the bylaw provides the Municipal Planning Commission with the discretion to allow a variance to locate an ancillary building in the front yard.
Okay.
Is anyone prepared to make the motion to bring this forward so we can discuss?
Mr. Stillberg, I'll make that motion.
Okay, Sheree Neitz has made the motion to approve as presented. Any discussion?
We've got it as Tremel Construction, do we?
General construction is the applicant is that what you asked? I'm sorry.
It says pending title change though too, under the app.
The only reason, because I have on my piece of paper here that it is Tremel's not anywhere on here, right? The applicant is Russell Hartwell and Leslie Bertel. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, so
Why are we, like, I'm not sure where's Tremel Construction in on this one.
on the agenda is that, go ahead.
And he submitted the application. He really should be the applicant, but the applicant was completed as being the purchasers of the property. So I should have really put the names of the actual.
There's no issue of the application being signed or not signed by the right person.
No, it's been signed.
I'm good.
Or did you have anything?
Exactly.
Okay. And, sorry, Sheree made the motion, right? All in
Yes.
favor?
I'm in favor.
Okay, just before we vote, Mr. Gender?
So the RV is a dwelling right now? Go ahead.
The site is intended to be put onto the site as a temporary dwelling unit until the cabin is built.
But it has to be on site before the garage is started.
Well, I don't know if the garage, before the garage, generally if they're building, they don't always have the RV on the site, but we can bring it, I can ask it, make that a condition that it be there while Call the question.
The appeal board recently took a closer look at those provisions in relation to another lake property. The language in the land use bylaw speaks towards a permit being issued rather than a dwelling existing. I think the intent of that was that, you know, if you apply for your house and a garage at the same time, you might build the garage to build a house off of. With the RVs, it gets a little bit more confusing, but the way the land use bylaw is currently written is that a permit for a dwelling unit should satisfy the requirement for an ancillary building to be ancillary to something. It's feels a little loopholey, but that is how it exists right now. And it's certainly something we'll allow council to evaluate as part of the land use bylaw.
That was just under the standing that you had to have your dwelling before your garage.
It just has to be permitted at the same time. And I believe the intent there, as I said, was that you might build the garage first so that you can work out of the garage to build the house. And that makes a lot of sense, right? That's a practical approach. But then adding RVs as a potential dwelling was a little bit odder in that, you know, the dwelling might be there and then it might be gone, but it's still permitted the whole time. So technically in the ancillary building is compliant.
Okay, now I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried.
I'm in favor.
Okay, so now we'll move on to 6.5, development permit 21072 for Spruit Farms on page 45.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the applicant is proposing to install a security operator dwelling unit, a manufactured home on lot 1, block 1, plan 1622546. An intensive livestock operation is situated on the subject property. County's land use bylaw defines a security operator dwelling unit as a secondary building or portion of a principal building used to provide on-site accommodations by the employer for persons employed on the property. A residence for the site caretaker or operator of a commercial or industrial establishment, or for the on-duty service security personnel, such as a storage facility. No more than one security operator dwelling unit is permitted on a site. A security operator dwelling unit shall not be used for general residential use similar to that of a private title.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Clark?
Question through to Jacinta. Is, with those diagrams, can you tell me where is that gonna be located?
We were there yesterday as well. So straight, do you know the barns when you come into the,
Yeah.
we didn't see the dugout
Oh,
on them?
okay, I see that now. I couldn't see it when I was looking before. Okay, yeah, no, that's, cause I didn't know if it was, there's a bunch of properties there and there's a circle up on that east and the north and I just wasn't sure where it was gonna go. Okay.
Clear, and then,
Yeah, I'll move it, please.
okay, Mr. Clark has moved the motion for the approval. Any discussion? All those in favor? All those in favor? Shereen? Okay.
That's why I read that. I think.
Unanimously? Okay, we'll move on to 6.6, development permit 21076 for Scott Telecom ExploreNet, page 50.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that Scott Telecom Services, on behalf of ExploreNet Communications, is proposing to install a 45-meter communication antenna and structure on the southwest of 64019 west of the 4th. The initial installation will be 4G LTE, and technology will be upgraded once 5G spectrum is available. As noted in the additional materials submitted with the development permit application, the Ministry of Industry retains sole jurisdiction over approving proposed radio communication antenna systems, including cell towers. Proponents must follow Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada's antenna tower siting procedures, titled Radio Communication and Broadcasting Antenna Systems. The applicant has researched co-location opportunities within the proposed location of the communication antenna, which determined that there were no existing structures found within an 8-kilometer radius of the targeted area on which to co-locate ExploreNet's equipment. Public notification measures taken to date by the applicant included written notifications to landowners within a 1-mile radius of the proposed location, and notice is published in the May 20th edition of the Statler Independent. Upon a decision by the Municipal Planning Commission to approve the development permit application for the communication antenna, the county will notify landowners within a 1 mile radius of the site and provide them with an opportunity to appeal the decision. List of the conditions for the communication antenna structure.
Okay, thank you.
Area council.
Done with that.
Okay, Wayne has moved this to be approved with, as presented with conditions. Any discussion? Mr. Gender?
I think we want to come out on
Some notes, whether, Rick, this is the one that you're looking at, maybe the possibility of the back slope, if we ever had to do some upgrading on the road.
Yeah, it seems pretty close to the road lines, yeah.
I'm just kind of wondering, like, in your view, is it going to be adequate?
Well, no, that's why I brought it up. If it isn't back on a hill, which I'm sure it is, doesn't take much to close up, 30 meters of the backflow. It's pretty significant cut, so it just seemed like it's awful close to the road for this particular application being on a hill.
There's no road there now. You're talking
Future road?
Communication tower.
We
Oh,
have,
I see what you're saying,
we have bellows in both pipelines, and the pipelines that are there are at the offset, so this is kind of a utility in reality, so you might consider another utility doing the same kind of offset as a pipeline, right? The only thing I really noted is we have a 30 meter from right away rule for the pipeline for a reason, so we can backflow roads.
Go ahead.
Jacinta?
That is a condition if under the setbacks, it's 125 feet or 38 meters from the center line of the county shoreline lines. That is already condition number 3. I don't know if that's adequate. Pardon?
No, so we're good now.
Yeah, when I did the math, it didn't seem to add up based on the drawing, but that's got to ask the question.
Okay.
Maybe we should underline that condition to make sure that it's, that they meet it.
Make sure the setback is appropriate.
We're proposing 44, which exceeds the minimum.
So Rick's calculations should be 44 from the center of the road. Did I follow that right?
No, Rick was a little under, he said it was less.
So the conditions are correct in our package.
It is 125 feet for any structure from the center line for 38 meters.
We have a pipeline policy, that we use utility policy, right? I believe it's 30 meters from the edge of the right of way, if I recall. Can't remember exactly, I think I noted in my comments.
Yeah, I know, I did see
I've seen that come through, but I wasn't sure. And this structure has been, the permit is asking for how many meters from the property line?
It shows in the drawing 32 meters from the right of way.
32, so,
Or from the center line.
okay, so
That should fall in line with what we need.
Rick was just saying that when he did his calculation, it didn't make sense.
I think the concern is that if it's 32 meters to the center point of the property versus 32 meters to the edge of their disturbance, that would be the issue, right? You're losing potentially 7.5 meters then.
Or 44 from the center and 32 meters.
No, pardon me, that was confusing. Center of their tower, right? The 32 meters from the road boundary to the tower. If that's what that's illustrating, then that's, you have to take another 7.5 meters off of it to get to the edge of what is likely their fence compound.
15 by 15 meters would most likely be a fenced compound at the base of the tower. I'm not sure what the tower is going to, is that a 45 meter tower? What would the base of that be? Like,
It's a 10-foot by 10-foot base, yeah.
I've gone off the site that they're saying they're having as far as the limit of the site for road allowance. And made a suggestion that we should, because it's basically a utility, that we should be following the rules we have for pipelines running parallel to the road.
We potentially amend the condition to require that any ground disturbance would be a minimum of 30 meters from setback. You might have a fence to work with if you've got sloping issues later, but that's a lot easier to move than the foundation.
Just bringing that up as a consideration because our policy talk about pipelines, not other
Yeah.
utilities.
Fair enough. You can see it looks like they're trying to bound themselves by those pipelines. They're trying to avoid them.
Yeah,
So
so I'm good with that. That condition reads that the bottom of the tower is 30 meters from
or
the,
more specifically, the foundation.
the foundation, yeah,
Foundation, okay.
of the tower is 30 meters from the,
From the center of the road.
no,
From the road allowance,
from the edge of the road along.
from the property line. So that should be a straight
That should
property
be a
line setback.
condition put in. So you're cool with that, Mr.?
Yeah, sure, no.
Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor?
I'm in favor.
Okay, that's carried unanimously.
One more thing to remember when it eventually comes out, the county has no power to regulate the antennas on that structure, 5G or not. We regulate the tower.
Great.
So, and its placement.
Well, it's 7G now already. We have.
Here's the thing, we have had concerns in the past, and my answer is always that it's a federal jurisdiction and we have zero right to be there.
We can't say whether it's Huawei or whatever.
Right. Can't say the brand.
Okay, so I think that wraps up our development permits and our subdivision files. So we'll move to 8.1 for new business, a referral from the Macomb County subdivision, page 106.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We just received a referral notice for a proposed subdivision on the south half of 14022 west of the Forest. The owners are Ron and Teresa Barrett. They're requesting our comments be submitted by June 23rd, which is today, but
Do you have any objection?
consolidation, and yes, that's right. Part of the parcels would be consolidated, the north portion.
That's a mix and match.
Yeah. Okay, if there's no issues with it to our board, move that we,
Motion that we receive that information.
do you want to reply that we have no,
Sure. Yep, that makes sense.
objections?
Administration.
I guess if administration would reply, we have no objections or concerns with it. Yeah, all those in favor? Sheree?
I'm in favor. Sorry. I did let Kim, the hearing.
Okay, that motion is carried unanimously. Old business, 9.1. A bylaw contravention on page 111.
Mr. Chairman, the county has been made aware of a development, sand, gravel, and surface mineral extraction operating on the southwest of 264020, west of the 4th, without the benefit of a development permit, which is in contravention of the County of Statler land use bylaw. On February 26, 2021, Planning Services received a development permit application for sand, gravel, and surface mineral extraction. Unfortunately, the application did not contain all the information required by Section 17 and Section 60.8 of the County Land Use Bylaw. As such, the application was deemed to be incomplete, and a letter was sent out to the applicants on March 8, 2021, requesting further information. A submission deadline has been set for June 30th, 2021. In the event that the requested information is not submitted by the stated deadline, the application will be deemed refused pursuant to Section 683.1, Section 8 of the Municipal Government Act. Administration is seeking direction from the Municipal Planning Commission on enforcement measures.
Okay, thank you.
Has there been any communication from the applicant recently on the file?
I have not heard of any,
So, it was in, when was it was March 8th that it was deemed incomplete, is that correct?
That's right. And what was requested at the time, site plan on a scale of 1 to 100. the area. The description of the project, which shall include but not limited to a detailed map showing the location of the disturbance area, excavation area, such, and a reclamation plan for the site as well. Those are the three things missing.
Outstanding. Okay, and has there been correspondence to the applicant? No, they just were made aware that they had to bring this forward by June 30th.
They received a letter of incompleteness, like the application was deemed incomplete with a deadline to provide the documents by June 30th.
So, I guess it's up to the board on course of action. Do we need to send them a reminder of this, Mr. Jenner?
I'm just wondering what size is this pit?
Pretty small.
So like, does it fall within, what is it, 12 acres?
Without seeing a site plan, it's hard to, we don't have the right because we've never accepted their development permit application. So that we don't have the right to go onto the property without permission to inspect. And without receiving a site plan to scale, we really have no idea how big you can look at the aerial photo, but it's from 2015. It's not going to show what's disturbed, as of today.
Mr. Clark.
Well, with what we're doing with other gravel pits, and as we've changed our land use bylaw go forward, I think we have to hold the same rules with this pit as any other pit. So if they don't have it in place by the 30th, the pit shouldn't be operated.
Yeah, the next step.
For that would be a stop order.
Yeah.
Well, would it be in order to send them a reminder, drawing their attention to this date? That
Be operating without permit at this time, but
We have to watch what we're doing for precedents there. If we sent the correspondence to them that they had to have it by this point, or they wouldn't be operating, is that how it was put to them?
A copy of the letter is actually in the folder that was sent to them.
It's not in the package.
not in the package.
Just today. So at the bottom of the letter, it says, please submit the required information to the county of Stettler no later than June 30th, 2021. If the requested information is not submitted by the stated deadline, the application will be deemed refused pursuant to section 683.1.8 of the Municipal Government Act.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that administration sends an email reminder that the date is coming up within a week and we haven't received anything. Please submit.
Do they use emails? Have we had contact with?
I'm sure they have emails.
No, have we been in contact with them email before? I'm just wondering.
I've taken over this file from Kara, so I'd have to verify with her, but I'm sure there's been some correspondence back and forth, but I can verify that.
I still believe it comes back to the fact that they've been in correspondence and they have not provided. So if they don't provide by the 30th, the pit is not operable.
I'm with you. I'm just so that seeing continuity. If somebody always phones you, you phone them back. If they,
No, I understand that piece, James, but it comes to the point where if they haven't got to us by the 30th, we're being asked what we're going to do. So I think at that point, we would put a stop work order on if they don't have it by that.
Everybody's treated the same. And
I'm not saying that, I think we need to do something by the 30th if we don't, but I'm just saying a friendly reminder.
Communicate. I know that's.
And all I'm saying to you, Wayne, is that I agree with you, but use the communication that they've used with us in the past. If it's a phone call that they've dealt with us, use a phone call. If it's email, use an email. If they deal with us through a lawyer, deal with them through a lawyer.
Okay. Steel Cassidy?
Wondering if a friendly reminder of the consequences of not having the information in by June 30th, because lots of people get warnings and they tend to, not realize how serious they are. I can vouch for that.
Because maybe.
However we choose to communicate, as they communicate with us, is that consequences will be a stop work order will be issued.
I think it's only fair because they've only got three pieces left of information to send in, and if it's refused, and all that, then they basically got to start over with a new permit application, don't they? And start over. So basically, it's in their best interest to finish it up. They've started it. There's some pieces of information missing. All they have to do is supply the additional information, and by the 30th, and they're good to go. Otherwise, it'll be stopped. So, Mr. Nixon has made a motion to send a reminder of the June 30th deadline for these people to get in their missing information on this development permit.
And Mr. Chairman, I said email because there's not time to write a letter in the week's time, so, but any communication has.
Contact, I think we'll just use the word contact.
Yeah.
And then, okay, any further discussion? Go ahead.
Would you put in that, Wayne, too, the fact of that there will be consequences if this deadline's not met?
Yeah, something that if you could convey the seriousness of it somehow, absolutely, and that there's the application is almost complete, just lacking 2 or 3 items, so.
Then they can, okay, that'll be added too, I mean, just so they understand that, what the consequences are as well. Okay, Mr. Brishay.
I think I understand these owners are currently operating. So this isn't an expiring application. They don't have one currently. We can certainly make mention that they should not be operating now, as that could evoke an immediate enforcement action rather than waiting. But regardless, an application for a development does not entitle you to start that development until it's approved and an appeal period has lapsed. So
Just to draw that to their attention, that they shouldn't even be operating until it's
correct.
Yeah.
All said in a very nice way.
Yep. Alrighty, any further discussion? All those in favor? Cherie?
In favor?
Okay, so that one is carried unanimously. In camera session. Do we have anything further to deal with in camera? This meeting?
From the administration's point of view, no.
Next meeting, July 28th, same time, same channel. And adjournment. Mr. Nixon, I was thinking, what are we gonna do? Dave's not here to adjourn. All in favor? And Cherie, do you want to adjourn?